Morning. My name is Pushkar Sharma. I'm with Cisco. I'm a product manager for CMX Cloud. So today I'm going to talk to you about CMX Cloud. You're familiar with CMX, or even if you're not, let me just give you a quick background on CMX. So CMX is, think of CMX as an application layer running on the core wireless network, which adds additional business value. So what this means basically is break up into three components. There is the detect, connect, and engage components, right? So the detect component is really the location part of it, which is basically detecting the Wi-Fi or any other wireless devices, including BLE devices, on your network. Right, and then the second phase is to onboard those Wi-Fi devices on the wireless network, and that's basically is the experience zone. That's the Wi-Fi splash page, which could be customized. There is SMS, social login. There are other ways for us to sort of customize that experience. That we are looking into PMS, which is property management system. There are other ways for us to kind of deliver those experiences, and that can be done on a location by location basis, right? So, for example, as we said, we have a detect, so we can detect where you are, and that granularity can be, you have heard of hyperlocation, which is all the way down to 1 meter, or it could be just presence based, and that's like, hey, am I around these APs, and now I know your contextual, reference there. And then the third piece is the engage, which is the engagement through mobile app or through the splash page itself, right? You can insert videos, you can insert content, which are again contextual, right? Because the detect part. From the detect part, the location, and then also we have on the connect piece is the language awareness. So we have support for multiple languages, English, other languages too. So what you can do is you can create those experiences which are now language specific and also location specific. So that's the the CMX overview. And then what we have all this data. So we have data about the identity, we have the data about location, and then there is the analytics around that where we're going with. And then again, depending on the granularity, you have presence data from location. So we have presence analytics. When we go to more granular data on location, we have location analytics. So what we have done is taken the CMX, which is on-prem today, and we have tried to move this to cloud, right? So this is already, we launched this product about 2 months ago in Cisco Live Berlin. It has been a great response. So let me give you a little bit insight of why we thought it was a good move. Because when we looked at a lot of our customers and we looked at the business value aspect of detect, connect, engage, that sort of transfers across all businesses, right? I mean, everybody wants to provide those experiences and gain insights, of what's going on their network. But if you look at an appliance-based model, it basically means a network administrator now has to have a server and set up those software. And then obviously need to know about, and these are the kind of services which are consumed by lines of businesses, right? Now, it's additional sort of services they have to do on top of the regular IT job. And so this is the kind of stuff, if it's delivered through cloud, it makes a lot more sense. It's less headache on the IT side, but also delivers the value from the lines of business perspective, and takes us down to the to other customers who may not want to actually jump into this. So that's the sort of the idea behind it, and we see a lot of community from partner community, and customers are very excited about this. So that's something we want to mention, and want to clarify that it's not sort of like, it's a SaaS offer, but it's not confused with services in general. Which is the the professional services or managed services, right? So it's purely, think of it like a Meraki offer for CMX. So how it works, I mean, it's not much different if you're familiar with CMX, but let me give you a brief overview. So we have access points and controllers, which is your core wireless network, right? And what we do is we basically connect the controller to the cloud. What we're looking for is simply HTTPS connection. There is no VPN or there is no firewall piece required here is sort of an outbound NMSP message coming out to CMX Cloud. And what we have done in 8.3 core, which is going to be coming out in next couple of months, is basically the control is directly talking to the cloud, sending the NMSP messages out. So all the data is now being collected on the cloud, and we can provide today on CMX Cloud we can provide these two applications, so to speak, which is the connect piece we talked about, and then the analytics piece based on presence location. Right. So these are the two applications we have. And let me tell you a little bit more. So as you can see, the Connect is basically your captive portal generator. It can be, as I said, it can be customizable. As you can see, I'll give you a quick demo also, like drag and drop features and make it very easy and nice, and you don't need HTML programming capabilities. Like, so this is great for people who are not that familiar. And then the analytics piece, which is basically gives you the insights on the dwell time, how long people stayed, what they do on your network in terms of how long they stay on an average, in the peak times across different locations. You can define different sites. I'll probably be able to give that demo.
So there's a lot of folks who are sort of captive portal averse in the world. Mm-hmm. Can you give us any insight into what sort of analytics data you can get if you decide to bypass this captive portal piece?
Right. So captive, you're right. I think captive portal is not for everybody. There are folks who would rather have less friction to get connected on the network, and that sort of becomes, you would rather focus on more people connected to the network, then you have better insights about the network. And then there are other folks, they may say, hey, I would rather have the brand experience delivered to the customer. So when we go into the presence part of it, what we can do once you have connected clients, then they're also like not connected, right? So on presence, you can see, actually, I'll be able to show a demo where you could see the number of visitors or passerbys that are not connected and the number of people who are connected. So you can now see how many people stayed in a certain site. So you can define a site by number of, so you can say, oh, these 4 access points are this building 13, building 18, floor 3, for example. This is, so now I want to know how many people came by close to this building, so how many are sort of visitors. And there is a threshold if they stay longer, or if I can hear them longer than, let's say, a threshold I put by default is 5 minutes, and a power level of minus 65 dBm. That's all adjustable. Now I can define them as sort of visitors as opposed to passersby, and then there are people who are connected, right? So all these 3 different grades, I can say I can basically say how long they, so I have 3 buckets, and I can do analytics on what are the peak times, how long, they stayed, the total number of each of those buckets.
Does it work with Express, or it does not work with Express?
So what we have done in 8.3 in Mobility Express, we have actually, Mobility Express is going to talk directly to CMX Cloud. So that actually is really helpful, especially those customers who in that market are basically in the mode of appliance-less, so to speak. It basically helps them to not have the same benefit of CMX without actually having to have an appliance.
So yes, it works with
Mobility
Express.
yes.
With any limitations or same?
No, so it's the same thing. So we're going to have the same 2 things. So there will be easy, I want to use CMX Connect, and by default we will, configure the controller part of the Mobility Express to talk to CMX. So that's pre-auth ACLs, redirect URLs based on what you say your account is. And the second piece is the HTTPS proxy part of it, which is the NMSP data send. And that again is like, tell me your, the passcode or the token and your URL, and we authenticate on the cloud. So talk seamlessly.
No, go ahead.
Can you speak to impact on a limited internet connection? How much data is it sending to the cloud?
Right. So that's about, it's on a per client basis about 10 bytes per second on a per client basis. So now it depends on number of clients on a per AP, so we can assume on a per AP basis up to like 750 if you assume 75 clients
Sure.
per AP. Yeah. So we think it is very tiny, and we have processed on the cloud like millions of a lot of customers are trying it. So we are in 60-day trial mode right now. So we have 4,000 or 5,000 access points right now. We were in a beta state. We had about like 6,000, 7,000 access points coming in. So about more than 1 million messages per day we've been able to process.
How's it as far as licensing for it? I know you showed 3 components at the beginning.
Right.
Is it licensed individually? Is it licensed as one?
Right.
Overall?
Right. So what I have a slide on that, but let me address that right now. So we have these 2 capabilities right now. So what we have licensed is a meter is per AP basis, and it's 135. So very similar if you're familiar with the Meraki model. So it's very similar to 135 prepaid model. So it works quite well.
I'm not familiar with the Meraki
Okay,
model, so
okay.
if you could explain, that'd be great.
Yeah. So the subscription model, there is one model which says, okay, postpaid billing just like our cell phone model, right? And then there is prepaid, like I pay for 1 year upfront, or one pay for 3-year or a 5-year subscription upfront. So that's Meraki model. That's also what our model is, because it's for a lot of customers, they have a certain budget and they want to use it for 1, 3, or 5, as opposed to have a billing model which is like postpaid billing. So that's one, and then its meter is per AP. So you have 1 AP is a price X per AP, and then the same price if you have 100, so 100 times X is the price for 100 APs. And so we have Connect is one tier, and another tier is Connect with Presence Analytics. So think of Connect by itself as a tier, and then another one is Connect with Presence Analytics. So if you don't care about analytics, just the engagement or the guest access part of it, that's the Connect. And that starts at $95 per AP per year. That's the one, and then there is a discount built in if you buy 3-year or 5-year. So it will go to 75 for a 3-year, 75 per AP per year for the 3 years. But it's a prepaid, so it's 3 times 75.
Is that Connect or Connect Plus Analytics?
That's the Connect. So I'm basically saying 95, 75, 65
Okay.
is for Connect, right? So 95 per AP per year is a 1-year pricing, and then for a 3-year, effectively becomes 75 per AP per year. So, but it's prepaid, so it's 3 times 75, and then the 5-year is 5 times 65, which is 65 per AP per year.
Okay.
So the second tier is the Connect with Presence Analytics. So think of it as sort of a bundle SKU, which primarily driven by analytics value, but Connect is part of it, and that's basically 125 per AP per year for 1 year, and then it goes down to 100 and 85, right? So sort of there is a built-in discount. So again, it's a prepaid, so multiply that by the term.
Those are all list, right?
These are all list prices, yes. And so basically same discount as like regular product discount. So we try to keep it simple for from a customer perspective.
So I see where this fits from a marketing perspective, especially in like the retail spots. Do you see a lot of uptake in like traditional campus enterprises, where you're talking about engaging with, what's the use case there, or do you see it take?
Right. Yeah. So I think the use cases are actually quite. I mean, oftentimes I think people see CMX and think retail and think coupons and
That's
things
easy,
like that.
right? Yeah,
That's easy to understand. But I think if you really go down and really think from 2 words, like one is experiences, another is insights, and those are cuts across all verticals, right? So let's say go to DMV, public sector, classic, right? I mean, they want to know, or you go to airports, they want to know, for example, queue times, or they want to see how long people spend on an average when they are in the store, right? In the place, and when you have a captive audience, you provide Wi-Fi to the captive audience so that, A, it makes waiting a little feel less, and B, it's an opportunity for you to engage if there is something, going on. And that could be, DMV might be saying, hey, these are the initiatives we are doing, new kinds of, licenses, or the Spanish programs and things like that, right? So you can see that experiences part and the same analytics part. Now, there's a lot of focus on the employee experience also. So not so much of presence, but you could count as a presence also. For example, and I'll show you an example of Building 14, which is across the street. You can maybe see how many people, what's the what time people usually come to the office or leave on an average, and how long people stay back. So if the lights needs to be turned on or turned off, can we optimize the operations part of it, right? So that's the insight. So for a lot of those granularity of insight, you need to have a better location. So that's our next phase, to actually bring those location to the cloud as well. It's already there on-prem. So we see that a lot of people are using it for that. A lot of people using it for asset management use cases. So you have tags in healthcare, for example, and you can track those tags. At a presence level, you can say, well, this tag, this MAC address, is it in or out? But at a location level, you can actually go down and say, is it in this room or not, right? So those are the use cases which goes across retail, in whether it's hospitality, whether it's any vertical, healthcare, manufacturing. So it kind of, if you look, so again, it's sort of insights, and insights is A, better customer experience, or B, better operations, right? So it kind of touches a little bit of the IoT side of it, which is how to make things better operationally, because now you have not just people, but also devices which are Wi-Fi enabled. So that's and then location is sort of like the big piece in there to provide that sort of insight of what's going on in the context of it. We have. Okay, so yeah, so let's go to the next slide. It's not, yeah. So this is so what we have, so in 8.3, I said, it goes straight and talks to the cloud. But for older software releases who haven't upgraded for one reason or other, so what we have is sort of an interim solution where you can actually install a little proxy on the on-prem. So it's a very lightweight. We're actually trying to make it even more lighter weight. It's 4 vCPUs, 8 gig RAM, 50 gig hard disk space, but we're trying to trim it down as well, which basically does the same thing. On one side, talks to the controller, because the NMSP, the way the protocol is, it's basically a client to the controller. And if it was on the cloud, then it would be basically asking through the firewall, talking back to the controller, right? So that's why you need a proxy, basically where you say, proxy is inside the firewall, talking to the controller, takes the data, NMSP feed, and sends it out HTTPS. So that's sort of a secure way to do it. Since it's outbound only, there is no port 80 is typically open, or there is an there is a HTTP proxy within the environment which can route it out.
So that would be for non-ME access points.
This is for not. These are for older. I think of older, like 8.2 or older releases, which may not have gotten to 8.3 immediately, or or for like sometimes it's the access points holds the software releases back. And I just wanted to kind of give a brief view on, so the same, so we do have APIs on-prem today. There's APIs, all the data we have, we can actually send this out as an API. So those APIs are also available through cloud. So if there is, a mobile app development or another, database entry you want to do, or compare and merge it with a CRM database or other databases, you can actually take all this information out. Now you have the MAC address, you can compare it with the identity of the person, and then say, okay, I know this person is a Royalty Card member, and he was in the store, so I can do my offline marketing or things like that, or engagement. It may not just be retail, to Sam's point, but could be other things too, right? So you can bring in all that data back. And the one advantage on the cloud model is, like, let's say you have other partners who are build other applications. Now you don't have to have, for every partner, you typically have to figure out in the firewall or VPN connection or something out. Now, since it's all on the cloud, you can cloud to cloud, or other aspects can talk very easily. So onboarding partners is a lot more easier than the cloud model. So quick. So this is, for example, Presence API. So you have for example, on Presence, you say passersby when they become a visitor, or passersby are detected, or site entries change, or the visitors when they went away. So all those notifications can be outbound. So there's certainly more, if you go to the next slide, there are actually more notification, and you can see all the data in there, right? You basically have the device ID, last seen, MAC address, AP MAC address, association status, all the timestamp, all the data is out there for, to be integrated in the backend API. I think we pretty much covered.
On that, are you guys doing any hashing on the MAC address? This is a Keith question. Are you guys doing any hashing for privacy on the MAC address of the client devices?
So we are. So this is something we're going to do right now in next couple of months. So that's on our roadmap.
Okay, and then will you guys be subscribing to any of the blacklist services for people who want to opt out from having their devices tracked?
Yes, so we do have an opt-out feature, which is already in 10.2.2 release, and we're going to put that on cloud also, where you can basically select, I want to opt out, don't want to be tracked. We implemented that, and we'll do that in the cloud as well.
Very cool.
So,
Yep.
question. For today, it's just presence analytics. It's not location analytics.
Yeah, so right now it's only presence, so that's a good point. So this is, so right now it's only presence analytics and the cloud, because that was, straightforward for us to go move to cloud, and a lot of people would benefit from it directly. But there are customers who are saying, yes, on-prem is fine, but I want to have the same benefit, cloud benefits, so to speak, for location as well. And then, that's on our roadmap. So in next, maybe a quarter or so, we'll see location on cloud. That's good. So we talked about the pricing model. I just want to take the ball here and, just a quick demo of.
Are you interested in feedback on the pricing model?
Sure.
It sucks.
Yeah, so I think one thing is I wanted to actually mention that too, because it's like, hey, on-prem is 75 and it doesn't make sense, right? But if you actually do a TCO calculation, you bring in and if you, let's say an example, we did an example for 100 APs or something. I mean, there's about 75% cost savings. If you bring in there's an appliance cost, there is a software cost, there is administration cost. In fact, there is a heating cost, and there is a cooling cost for that heating, right? So if you really think about what the
Stuff that the customers don't
yeah,
care about?
yeah. Yeah, I mean, so when the one IT administrator say, yeah, that's sort of the cost, which it doesn't have to come from my pocket, because if someone is a data center team has paid for it, things like that. But if you really take a step back and say, no, there is a cost to it, and I'm paying somebody to actually software upgrades. Analytics is sort of a software which actually fills disks over time, right? So now you'll always be looking for, am I running out of disk yet or no? And then if it runs out, the machine goes down, you put a hard disk, comes back up, and you have to archive it and things like that. So in the cloud model, it's just much more easy and it's scalable. And today, if you don't have to, let's say, you want to go and add an MSC appliance, takes a certain time, lead time to order, to ship, and then finally, you can send somebody up there and bring it up, right? So scalability is a lot more easier. So if you think about all those benefits, actually, some people basically saying, and then by the way, the support is built in. So in a SaaS model, so you have technical support is also built in. So what price you see includes the support cost also.
What about?
I don't necessarily think that the price is wrong. I think how you price it is debatable. There's other vendors out there that have chosen to go based off of a square footage, for example. So if you're going to cover 225,000 square feet, it costs X.
Right.
Because in a per AP model, I mean, some of us have been talking here, is 7,000 APs.
Just sell fewer APs.
Well, hey, if you're Wi-Fi Hulk going for the green coverage, okay, there's Dan. But I mean, that's
So we
kind of
did
the rub there.
Yeah, we did research, and in fact, we did a survey with about 500 customers, and that was one of the exact questions, what's the meter you would like to choose? And I think there are, as you said, right, there are people who would like to choose a different meter because it makes sense. But since a lot of the people are still IT buyers. And then, like per AP is sort of unique from their perspective. How many APs? So here's the cost for an AP and a controller. And you say, how many clients? And it's like, we used to have an MSC, a client model, a per client device line.
Yeah, we
It's
talked
hard
about
for
that
them
too.
to sort of, okay, how many clients? I'm in a retail. I don't know how many clients going to come in. So if they're not familiar with that sort of model, so we said, okay, let's try to be, conservative.
I think you need to do two pricing model available. You need to have the per AP model for the smaller shops that, you're talking a restaurant, your standard commodity-based lunch restaurant where you have one access point. Works perfectly fine, the $125 or whatever the case I want to pay for the analytics on there. But when you get into large shopping malls, large airports, large convention centers, this model doesn't work.
Right.
There's no way you can justify it. You can talk around as much as you want about saving on disk, saving on power and stuff. But then you mentioned something that you really didn't talk too much about, though, that you hit on in the pricing model: scalability. Today with the appliance, we have huge scaling concerns on these large environments. How does this help me then in the large scale deployments from a scalability standpoint? Am I still going to hit those same client limitations on how many I can track, how much data I retain? So if I want to retain 5 years worth of Black Friday data at 100,000 clients in a mall in a day, you'll scale that disk space to me and not charge me more?
Yes. So because if you are a paying customer for 5 years, so from today in 5 years, we will retain all your data until 5 years. So that's the part of the subscription benefit that, all the data you're accumulating, and since it's inorganic, you're not adding like videos and things like that. So you're not like, abusing that space. I mean, it's part of the APs generating that data. So, you don't want to be in that model where, hey, at least at this moment, we don't see the need because the kind of data we see, as I said, 10 bytes per second, we can retain it. So that's the advantage we see. And that's sort of built in, those advantages are sort of built into the model.
What about?
No, I was going to say, so I guess the other thing is what's an example use case that could kind of explain what the value add is of paying $100 a year per AP? What is the data going to tell you? So I know you're not doing location. So what's left over, and what can you do with that data that's going to bring value? It's going to say to the CEO or the CTO or the CMO or whoever that this is worth what we just spent.
But to piggyback on that real quick, I mean, this is just to play the other edge of the sword here is that's less expensive than some of the competitors that are out there. So I mean, it's nice to see that it's getting lower. I think we can all agree that we don't think it's low enough. We don't, there's a lot of us don't see that value in it, but it's still half the cost of some of the other competitors that are out there in the marketplace.
But they're also doing only a portion, right? They're not doing location. There's other pieces that you're not doing in the cloud yet.
Right.
Right. So I guess the question again is, show us a use case that kind of would tell a CMO or CTO or CEO or CFO that this is worth it.
Right. So in fact, I think what we have seen, we did a sensitivity analysis on technical decision makers versus the business decision makers. And we actually see the business decision makers are way more willing to spend on this because if you think about, let's say, an example of presence analytics, and let's say, if a CIO in Cisco wants to know how many people at 2 a.m. are still working late, 2 a.m. Right? How many people are overworked, and I want to make sure that experience is good. Like, what's the alternative? You need to have people actually pay somebody, California wage is $15 an hour soon, right? A certain dollars per hour, just people counting every 15 minutes all the time. We think about the value, just the cost it takes, right? And we talk to many retailers saying, I have no idea at a corporate level what's going on in each retail, right? I mean, if I have to do any promotions, I need to first of all go back in time and say, what happened last Black Friday? And sometimes it's sort of like, it's Easter today, we're going to do some event, but I have no idea what the traffic patterns are. What's the best I have?
But if I have an NMS, I can pull up and say, hey, how many clients connected last Saturday between 6 p.m. and 10 p.m.? And I can pull that up.
Connected, but what if you're trying to track unassociated clients?
Yeah, you need presence at that point with PLE or something.
Yeah. So I mean, so there are different technologies, and basically, so BLE is one, Wi-Fi, as I said, like there is connected and unconnected. So you want to have a broader picture of what's going on. not just connected and broadly speaking too. And then if you think about the splash page part of it too, right? Some of these, again, if you have to have a very nice looking splash page and you want it to be, again, dynamic, where you want to change it, let's say Easter is today and there is, Thanksgiving and others, then there is a cost to actually do that, right? So having it, and especially if you think about from the point of view who's going to manage it, it's going to put a burden on someplace in the network.
So regarding the cloud Connect captive portal, can that be customized per store for different store promotions and because usually that's how retail works, right?
Yes, exactly, right. So yeah, I could give a quick demo, but I think so. You're right. So what we do is, so since the CMX is location aware, you have a concept of sites, which is presence sites that you can, since you don't have location, you can say these 4 APs is my store, and I'm going to call it store 1. And these another 4 APs are store 2. So all those 4 APs I can then customize the experience and say this portal goes on store 1 and the portal number 2 goes on store 2. So you can make it very custom. And then as I said, like you can actually also define by language. So I have the store in San Diego and I want to have a Spanish language enabled. So I can the browser will auto detect it's a Spanish and then it will configure it for you.
What about hybrid, right? So I've got some use for location analytics in my environment. I've got some use for just presence. I want to be able to enable doing both, and maybe I want to take stuff to the cloud. How do we mix this?
Right. So one piece is we are, so since location is not there on cloud yet, so it's coming in a quarter. So once we have in a cloud quarter, we plan to merge presence and location as well. So if you are a store, you have smaller stores and a larger store. So smaller stores may not be able to do XY. So you'll be able to do presence. And when you look at the larger stores, you can do location. So we want to have that experience that you could do presence and location together.
And to add to that, in the education side, we have thousands of APs. Is it possible to do it on some APs or even just group these APs? Like, because I'll have a school, maybe they want to use it.
Right.
And everyone's on the same controller, or is it?
Yeah. No, you're right. So it can be, so you could have let's say Flex 7500 controller or 6,000 APs on it. And you say, elementary schools don't need it, high schools, I want to know what's going on. It's large enough, or maybe I do care. Then you can say, these APs are my store, site A. And then those are the APs from a licensing perspective. You can simply count towards licensing, entitlement, and run analytics just on those.